In the world of Milsim, you've probably seen scenes like this all too often. Squad mates are clumped up, fire teams are bleeding into each other, and the squad is generally incapable of moving from point A to point B without devolving into a huge mess. If this gaggle took enemy contact, they'd be scrambling just to organize themselves, never mind execute a coordinated tactical maneuver. To avoid this, it's essential to master the fundamentals of squad movement, formations, and movement techniques. Without them, your squad ends up like these guys. Trying to get into a firefight like this is like being a boxer trying to throw punches without a proper stance. You're off balance, vulnerable, and unable to react quickly to an opponent. When properly utilized, formations and movement techniques provide the squad with a solid base from which every tactical action flows. Used together, they create an ultra-flexible system the squad can use to posture itself for any situation on the battlefield. My name is Dance, I'm a former South Korean Marine and an avid Milsim gamer. Today, I'll be introducing you to the doctrinal way for a rifle squad to conduct movement on the battlefield according to the US Army. Now just keep in mind, this is only doctrine. The value of doctrine is in the principles it embodies, not so that you can take it and translate it to the battlefield one for one. For practical use, use your creativity and problem-solving skills, and tailor the principles from the doctrine to the different circumstances that you face. For example, the terrain, the time you have available, and the enemy you face. In military terminology, we call these collective factors the MET-TC. So with that, let's move into the doctrine of squad formations and movement techniques. So, starting with formations. The primary formation used for movement is the squad column. One fire team leads, while the second trails, with the squad leader located in the center or wherever he needs to be to control the unit effectively. And if the lead fire team is heavy left with the AR on the left side, then the trail fire team alternates so that it's heavy right with its AR on the right side. Now here's a view of the entire formation. I did my best to make it to scale, so unlike the diagrams, this is more of a realistic picture of the scale of a squad in column. For details on the fireteam formations, you can watch my previous video on fireteam formations and movement techniques. If your squad has an attached weapons team, such as a medium machine gun or anti-tank team, it should be situated near the squad leader in the center of the column, where it is protected but also able to be quickly brought into the fight should contact occur. In the squad column, each team simply follows the one in front, making it easy to maintain and simple for the squad leader to control. The best thing about the squad column is its flexibility, depending on what formation the fire teams use. Now the default is the squad column fire team wedge. You can see the fire teams are in a wedge formation here. And this provides the squad with the best overall 360-degree coverage in terms of security and fields of fire, and it provides moderate dispersion both laterally and in depth. Another advantage of this formation is that should enemy contact be made, only this lead fire team is committed to the fight, which allows the trail fire team to maneuver and enter the fight on its terms. Should the squad conduct a short halt, which is a temporary stop of about 5 minutes or less, the formation compresses, and the trail wedge inverts itself to essentially create a circle, while any attached weapons team, if there are any, orients itself towards the enemy's most likely avenue of approach, which in the vast majority of situations is towards the unit's 12 o'clock. Now you can see here that the squad has now formed a rough perimeter inside which the leaders, such as the squad leader and the fire team leaders, can meet in the center to conduct a map check, construct a plan, and pass out instructions. Now say the squad encounters rough terrain or poor visibility, what the fire teams can do is collapse their wedges into modified wedges, and this creates the squad staggered column. And while this formation sacrifices front and rear security, it enables the unit to move quicker as each man simply follows the one in front. And it's especially well suited for movement along roads, urban streets, and similar limiting terrain. Now for a short halt from this formation, again, the unit will compress, but then each man simply turns outwards to form a similar perimeter, but it's going to be more of a rough oval than a circle. And again, the machine gun team is going to be orienting towards the enemy's most likely avenue of approach. And ultimately what you want is something like this. Of course, the individual positions of these members here are not ideal. They want to be finding covered and concealed locations and lowering their stance as much as possible, but for the sake of visibility and illustration, I'm leaving it like so. When the squad faces extremely close terrain or abysmal visibility, such as being in a dense jungle or on a moonless night, then each fireteam's column formation can collapse into a single file. And the end result would look something like this. Nothing fancy, just everybody in a single file formation. The squad file is only used when absolutely necessary. It is perhaps the worst formation to engage in enemy contact, as it carries the extreme risk of being enfiladed from the front or rear with minimal firepower to respond. You can imagine if I had a machine gun, I could easily mow these guys down ducks in a row. But it does enable the unit leaders to maintain maximum control when control is difficult, and for the unit to keep up its pace of movement without worrying about where everybody is. And due to the squad file's restrictions in terms of where people are, leader positioning needs to be more deliberate. So for example, we've got the lead fire team, squad leader, machine gun team, and trail fire team here. The squad leader can remain in the center, as is typical with other formations, but for example, he could choose to lead his unit from the front. Similarly, the fire team leader of the trail fire team could be placed at the rear of the file to ensure that no one gets left behind and to maintain accountability. And for a short haul, everybody would alternate left and right security in the file formation, with rear and front security holding their respective ends, and the leaders would move around to meet wherever they need to be. Unlike the squad column, which is a general purpose formation, the squad line is only used during the assault or immediately before in preparation. It allows the squad to concentrate its full firepower forward and is its main fighting formation. However, the squad line is more challenging to maintain and for the squad leader to control, making it ill-suited for extended movements. Additionally, when the squad is engaged by the enemy from this formation, both fire teams end up committed to the firefight, and this reduces the squad leader's ability to adapt to new circumstances as the firefight develops. The squad line is thus ideal when acting as the assault element of a platoon attack. When initiating an independent squad attack, the squad column might be a more flexible choice. One thing to note, I was always taught that the automatic rifleman should go on either end of the squad line, so when the squad has an attached medium machine gun team, I would venture to guess that it is best positioned on one of the flanks of the squad or held in reserve behind the main line. However, I couldn't find a doctrinal citation for this. It is my personal extrapolation and how I would have done things. Now, as a squad leader, one of the best ways to control the squad, particularly when it is deployed online for the assault, is by designating and using a base unit. What is a base unit? A base unit is the element with which the unit leader situates himself and uses to control the broader formation. So, if I am the squad leader, I can designate my left fire team here, say it's my alpha team, as my base unit. And all I worry about is directly managing the speed and direction of movement of the single fire team. I then instruct my other teams to cue their movement off of that base unit, and I rely on the team leaders to manage the movement of their units appropriately. And this method helps me to control the squad without overloading myself by utilizing delegation and relying on my subunit leaders. Remember, despite what all these neat graphics might lead you to believe, squad formations are not rigid. They are, in fact, very fluid, and not just the leaders, but the squad members themselves adjust it on the fly according to the terrain and situation. Indeed, the formation may look unrecognizable to an outside observer, but as long as the mechanics of the formation are functional, that is what's important. From the squad leader's perspective, the biggest tool he has to adjust the squad's formation and its parameters is by using one of the three movement techniques. A movement technique is like a modifier, or a mode, that a squad's formation can be set to based on how likely enemy contact is. The three movement techniques are traveling, traveling Overwatch, and bounding Overwatch. Traveling is the movement technique used when enemy contact is unlikely and the unit simply wants to move at the fastest speed possible. And this is your basic, hey everybody, we're moving in this direction mode of movement. It is characterized by the whole squad staying together during movement, with the doctrinal prescription being 20 meters between the fire teams. However, the final details do depend on the terrain, with the most critical factor being the maintenance of clear communications and control and visual lines of sight between the elements and individuals. And using the traveling movement technique just makes it easier to keep the whole unit organized during long movements, but you don't want to be walking into a firefight using this technique. Traveling Overwatch is the movement technique used when enemy contact is possible, and with this technique, the lead fire team just pushes out 50 meters in front of the rest of the squad as an advance guard. And this just means that when the lead fire team takes contact, the trail fire team, the squad leader, and any attached weapons teams are far enough away to avoid being caught in that initial firefight. They are then free to maneuver and enter the fight on their terms. Typically, the machine gun team will move forward to support the lead fire team, get a base of fire going, and the assault element will move with the squad leader for a bold flank. And for those of you that know, that is the basic react to contact battle drill, and this is the default posture from which it takes place. Traveling Overwatch is most often used with the squad column formation. However, I've also heard from US veterans that a common practice is to have the trail fire team offset to create a sort of echelon formation. This is intended as a type of traveling Overwatch where the trail fire team has a clear line of fire to the front and can be more easily be brought online with the lead fire team. Now, traveling Overwatch does have the drawback of making the squad harder to control because of the separation between the fire teams, but it does benefit from the added decision space and time for the squad leader to adapt to new developments as they occur. Sometimes the squad knows for a fact that it is moving to enemy contact, or it might be crossing an area with significant exposure, such as this open danger area we are standing in. The best way to approach these situations is by using Bounding Overwatch. Under Bounding Overwatch, there is one element that is stationary and ready to engage any enemies that may pop up, while a different element moves under their cover. And the different fire teams alternate these roles, so that the squad is slowly walking forward in a movement that is slow but secure. Now, the covering fire team should always ensure it occupies a position with good cover, concealment, and fields of fire, and the moving fire team should always make sure it is bounding to a location that offers the same, or it can take over that Overwatch role for the other fire team to move under their protection. Now, the distance between bounding elements should not exceed effective small arms distance, or approximately 150 meters, so that the teams remain mutually supporting. Now, Bounding Overwatch is just preemptively posturing your squad to conduct fire and movement. You're already conducting the necessary motions, primed and ready to go. The only thing that changes... Thank you. The only thing that changes once you take contact is that the Overwatch element starts shooting. The squad leader, myself, assesses the situation and decides on the course of action, setting into motion a battle drill. He can choose to break contact, he can develop the situation for a platoon attack, or he can launch a squad attack of his own. If he's caught in an ambush, he will have to rely on his men to automatically initiate a react to near ambush battle drill. However, we're going to save all of these for later. Alright, so far in the Milsimmer's Guide, we've covered a lot of boring but super important stuff that is the foundation for understanding what comes next. I hope these videos were still worth watching, however, because as you may have guessed from the end of the last section, we will finally be moving on to the doctrinal answers to what happens when the firefight starts. I hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching.